What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Mellow Juke joint, where there's never a cover and no drink minimum. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm your host, Mike P. Thank you for taking the time to see what the Mellow Buzz is all about, and to join me on my personal journey of musical discovery. And all of the returning Mellowheads, thank you for coming back for the continuation of my journey. Last week, we were lucky enough to have the Frogman himself, Clarence Henry, here. This week, I couldn't be more excited, so please, pull up a seat and get ready to be entertained. This week, we have the happiest man alive, Mr. Ivory Joe Hunter. Ivory Joe Hunter was born on October 10, 1911, in Kirbyville, Texas, to Dave and Anna Smith Hunter. Ivory, which is his real name, came from the fact that his mother thought he looked like the baby on the bottle of Castoria Ivory, a children's laxative. He was one of 12 children, and was surrounded by music from day one. His father was a blues musician, and his mother was a gospel singer in the local church choir. Ivory Joe was introduced to the piano at a very young age. He would sit at the family piano with his sister and learn to play primarily by ear. He would be involved with his grade school's orchestra, sing with the local church choir, and play the pianos for family and neighbors. When Ivory Joe's parents both died at the age of 13, he went to live with his godmother. She was his biggest inspiration to play the piano. She saw the raw talent he possessed and took up extra work to pay for piano lessons. While singing at the Albert Church, people would come from all over Texas to hear his gospel solos. He acquired quite a following. Ivory Joe knew he wanted to make music his life. After graduating high school in 1930, he started a small band. They started playing at school dances, eventually playing at all the local joints in his community. In 1933, Ivory Joe was approached by a pair of folk art researchers, John and Alan Lomax, to record a song for the Library of Congress. He recorded Stacko Lee on a wax cylinder for them. In 1935, Ivory Joe and his brother Lee formed a band and would get gigs all over the Texas area. With his popularity on the rise, in the early 1940s, Ivory Joe would get his own radio program with KFDM, receiving his first moniker, Rambling Fingers. Eventually, he became their program manager. Realizing he wasn't going to get where he wanted to be with his music career living in Texas, Ivory Joe packed up and moved to Oakland, California in 1942. While in Oakland, Ivory Joe founded one of the first black-owned recording studios, Ivory Records. Backed by Johnny Moore's Three Blazers, he released his first single, Blues at Sunrise. It would become a regional hit, but knowing he had something, Ivory Joe leased the song to exclusive imprints. It would go on to peak at 3 on the national R&B charts. Blues at Sunrise would be the only single released by Ivory Records before Ivory Joe shuttered the label. Not to be discouraged, he moved to Berkeley, California, and here, with the help of a few local DJs, would go on to form Pacific Records. His first single with Pacific was 7th Street Boogie and Reconversion Blues, released in 1946. It was in 1947, still with Pacific, Ivory Joe would enter the R&B charts once again. Pretty Mama Blues entered the R&B charts, peaking at number 1. Through 1948, Ivory Joe released 10 singles with Pacific Records. In 1948, Ivory Joe moved on to 4-Star Records. He would lease some of his music from Pacific to 4-Star, along with recording new music. His song Blues at Midnight would enter the R&B charts, peaking at number 10. Even though Ivory Joe signed with King Records in 1948, 4-Star, because of the lease agreement, would still release Ivory Joe's music through 1953. The final single 4-Star released was Grieving Blues and Big Wig. Signing with Sid Nathan and King Records was huge for Ivory Joe. He didn't have the burden of the business side of running a record label, which allowed him to focus on his craft. Even though Ivory Joe wrote most of his previous work, his time with King, even though short-lived, allowed his writing ability to flourish. It's estimated by the end of his career, Ivory Joe wrote around 7,000 songs. He went on to write many hits while with King, the first being Don't Fall in Love with Me, released in May of 1948. Ivory Joe would record 13 total singles for King Records. While with King, he started to incorporate country music into his style, most notably with a cover of Jealous Heart, which peaked at number 2 on the national charts. Ivory Joe would produce 16 chart toppers for King Records. While his contract with King came to an end, MGM pounced and landed Ivory Joe. In 1950, Ivory Joe signed with MGM. He didn't waste time creating the hits. His first song recorded, I Almost Lost My Mind, another country-inspired blues track, peaked at number 1 on the charts. With the success of I Almost Lost My Mind came a national tour, and boy was it a popular one. When Ivory Joe played the Palace on Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee, they lined up for 3 blocks to hear him play, breaking all box office records. He would record a few more hits for MGM, SP Blues in February of 1950, I Need You So in April of 1950, and It's a Sin in October of 1950. And just like that, the hits just stopped. Ivory Joe recorded 20 singles for MGM through 1953. When his contract ended with MGM, Atlantic Records would be there waiting. Ivory Joe signed with Atlantic in 1954. Atlantic would allow Ivory Joe to incorporate more country music elements into his music. His first hit for Atlantic was It May Sound Silly in December of 1954, peaking at number 14 on the R&B charts. Ivory Joe's biggest success was his million-selling hit, Since I Met You Baby, in October of 1956. It peaked at number 12 on the US pop charts, and number 1 on the R&B charts. He released 11 singles for Atlantic. His final hit with them was Yes I Want You in October of 1958, which peaked at 13 on the R&B charts. City Lights, released on the Dot label in December of 1958, would be the last time Ivory Joe would appear on the pop charts. City Lights peaked at 92. In the 1960s and 70s, Ivory Joe hopped around from label to label without any commercial success. He even worked as a staff producer at Motown in the early 1960s without credit. Also, finally releasing a full-blood country album, I've Always Been Country, which got him a regular spot at the Grand Ole Opry. And sadly, in 1973, Ivory Joe was diagnosed with lung cancer. And it wasn't long after his diagnosis that Ivory Joe was bedridden. And in October of 1974, a benefit concert was held to help pay for his medical bills. Somehow, Ivory Joe was able to muster enough power to be flown to the concert and perform at the show. The last song he ever performed was God Just Lent Them to You. And just 5 weeks later, on November 8th, Ivory Joe Hunter passed away. So let's take a moment to celebrate a man who transcended musical genres and listen to I Quit My Pretty Mom.
Well, boys, I've quit my pretty mama, and I also changed her name. So please don't ask no question. Right now I can't explain. Yes, I loved her. Yes, I loved her. Just like I said that I would. But I found out this morning she didn't mean me no good. Got to go. So if you people let that chick alone. I can't tell you on this record. All I can say is leave her alone. Well, so long.
And that was Ivory Joe Hunter, and I Quit My Pretty Mama. Boy, did he have a silky smooth voice. And it's pretty ironic that his first name was Ivory, because his skill on the piano was something amazing. And this will be another song I add to my playlist. And I've started the playlist, so please check that out. I've added a couple artists and some more songs for you all to check out. So please do. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you can, leave a comment down below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know what you think of this artist. If you like this artist, I can find somebody similar and do them as well. So again, thank you. This is the Mellow Buzz. I'm Mike P. You'll have a great day. Thank you.